It's good to have you join us on Nigeria Now, showing on your digital first Pan-African news network, 2S Television. We're reaching you from Nigeria's federal capital city, Abuja. My name is Merciful Ajinomo. To analyze some stories this morning in the studio is Felix Adetobo. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. We begin from the Daily Trust newspaper, and the banner headline there is 9 years after, banks battle discos over 820 billion naira debt. We have a couple of writers on that story. We have employees decry salary backlog, others, and then we have NERC to halt owner-manager regime. That's coming from sources little to show in increased electricity supply, and then experts say investors overpaid, poorly managed discos. And on the front, the very top of the Daily Trust right there, we see tariff dispute. NHI's broadcast truce between healthcare providers, HMOs. And then we see another story right there on insecurity. Bandits kill 9 in Sokoto, Kaduna, Niger. Abduct 50 in Katsina village. And then besides that, we see Senate sets 3 trillion naira target for revenue agencies. Beside the picture of today there, we see National Assembly transmits reworked electoral bill to Buhari. And on page 21 right there, NNPC 6 energy transition investment targets low carbon economy. And then Senator Musa says on APC chairmanship, unity, stability will be my bond. Then we see a story just underneath the picture of the day there, how IPOP killed header, shot Igbo man's 30 cows. We have a couple of riders. The first from Peter Onyado, my animals worth 30 million naira. And late header spent 20 years working for Igbos. Amiati Allah says, killing despicable. That's on page 3 of the Daily Trust. Among all these stories, Mr. Felix, which of them grabs your attention the most?
Looking at the issue of, in fact, everything, because most of the headlines really talks about what we are facing in the country. But I would like to speak to this discourses issue.
Okay.
It's like our privatization is made in secrecy. Because even till now, I still don't understand what's going on between the federal government and the discourse. You understand? Although during privatization, government still has its own stake, maybe like 5–10% of the stake. But with what is going on now, a lot of things have been happening. Going by, there has not been much difference from what we had when we had NEPA, PHTN, and the rest, then being sold to, discos being in charge. And look at what we are seeing again, owing salaries of workers and some other things. And not that the light is even as frequent as
yes, because some of Nigerians have spoken about the issue of is getting worse day by day.
It's getting worse. So it's like I don't know the way we do our privatization. Privatization should help the country to get better, but what we are seeing now, I don't know. It's quite unfortunate with this.
Okay, that story can be found on page 3 of the Daily Trust newspaper. We move quickly over to the Daily Independent newspaper. The banner headline there is Port Operations Stakeholders Review 1 trillion naira annual loss to absence of single window. That story is on the front page and it continues on page 6 of the Daily Independent. On page 29, Senate reads Riot Act to MDAs over secret lopsided recruitment. That's on page 29, of course. And still on the page 29, NAS transmits Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2022 to Buhari. And still on that page, EFCC files 2.9 billion naira fraud charges against Okorocha. And then we see the rider says detains Medview Airline MD. And on page 6, National Assembly gives revenue agencies 3 trillion naira target for 2022. Talking about 2023 global election, Akwa Ibom PDP stakeholders reject Governor Emmanuel's anointed candidate, say he is unpopular. Action may cause party's downfall. And on page 7, arsonists set Obasanjo's farm ablaze. From the very top right there, we're talking about the presidential election in 2023. Peter Obi says, I'll contest if PDP zones ticket to South. And then besides that, we see federal government CMN's deal to improve electricity for 40 million people will create 11,000 jobs. Talking about the EFCC story against Okorocha, of course, the news has been all over the internet. It's just a couple of hours after he declared his intention to, be a candidate in the election, and we've seen EFCC filing as much as 2.9 billion naira fraud. What's your take on this story?
Our government agencies should learn how to do the right things. And I think Okorocha, according to him, is like he also has a judgment, court judgment against them, which they refuse to also honor. Now, it's like what played out yesterday is like they've been waiting for him to just make that declaration, then come up with this. We should take a level of our fight against corruption beyond looking for who to just fight, to pick some people to fight deliberately. That's the way I saw it.
Like witch hunting or something.
Like witch hunting. It shouldn't be the time this guy, came up to declare, since everyone is declaring, he came out to declare immediately. You came up with a charge against him. It's over 2.something billion. To me, it's not really good, and it's not helping our democracy. And when you're fighting corruption and it's looking suspicious, it's like we are fighting nothing. Because with what played out yesterday, many people have decried, the way EFCC, go about. And we even feel that since this young man came on board, that things will start taking shape. But it's like EFCC still remain EFCC. They fight who they feel that they should fight, or probably political enemies. And we should go beyond that, to be able to get to the crux of, if truly we want to fight a corruption, let's fight it head on, and not looking for, where were they before it declared?
I think some people have their defenses better late than never. So also Nigerians came.
No, but where were they? That's the question. Where were they? Is it
perhaps working on the issue, investigating more?
No.
And getting
okay,
sources?
What about the court judgment he has against them? Have they honored any of them? According to him, I listened to him yesterday. He said anytime a judge gives a judgment against for him against the FCC, the next thing is that they will come up again and tell that judge to recuse himself. Then another judge should come. We shouldn't be playing around with all this. To me, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, that story can be found on the Daily Independent newspaper, of course, on page 29. We move over to the Daily Sun. Banner headline there talking about 2023 elections. Hope rises as Buhari gets amended electoral bill for assent. And then we see a couple of riders. The first one says INEC pledges to hold elections as scheduled, urges federal government to address security challenges, meet security chiefs. Talking about hope rising again, we've seen this kind of story before now, even the time where Nigerians expressed their opinions that they're expecting him to ascend, and it lasted over 1 month, over 2 months he came out and spoke about it, and now we're seeing hope again, and he has still not ascended. But of course the headline is carrying hope rises. So let's talk about what do they mean by hope rises, because that's
probably the meaning of that is that they've satisfied him. He sent it back to them. That's also clause is not, in terms
included in it. Yes.
So that they should try as much as possible to do something about it. And the joint house, they've been able
perhaps they've worked on everything.
They've worked on it now, and thank God they are the ones in power. So it's still the APC heading the National Assembly, and just as the Senate President once said, that they're always there to work with him, whatever the executive wants. So I believe that they must have done. So that's the reason why we're having hope rises, as the Sun News just put it. We feel now that they've satisfied the president.
Of course, there's no other.
And
okay.
Don't forget the House of Rep, they refused to include consensus candidacy. But when it gets to the Senate, and in fact in the joint session, they agreed on a joint. Now we have the 3 options, for parties to work with whenever it comes to this issue of party primaries.
Okay.
Now we feel that the president has no other. So if it comes up again for a reason again not to have signed, then we'll now see that maybe the hope has now finally been dashed.
All right. Still on the Daily Sun, of course, we see mass failure on police recruitment exams. Of course, the writer there says 90% fail to score 30%, says PSC, and that's on page 8 of the Daily Sun newspaper. On page 4, we see FCC returns 11 recovered property to Arthur Eze, and that's on the Daily Sun newspaper. On this day, Buhari says, my successor will inherit homegrown economy, stable democracy, revamped security forces. On the Vanguard APC convention, we see CPC ACN blocks in supremacy battle. That's on page 5. And then on the Blueprint newspaper, the banner headline there is Federal Revenue Generating Agencies, why we can't miss National Assembly's 3 trillion naira annual revenue target. That story is on page 6. Stay updated on our website www.tostvnetwork.com for more information and more stories as they unfold. Thank you so much, Mr. Felix, for joining us today on Nigeria Now. Thank you for joining us, viewers out there. Don't forget, you can always be a part of our social media community. My name is Merciful Ajinomo. Bye for now and stay safe.